Hi, Jacob. So I finally got around to opening up your revised file, and I will say that this version is much more interesting to look at than the first thing you sent me, which was basically one page of not very interesting material. Um, Here's the thing: you are an artist, and um, I can understand why the tech techniques of this program may not come easy to you. It took me a while. I spent most of my career as an illustrator. So I still think you can benefit from this because you may end up being able to create artwork that contains typography. And you may be able to conceive and publish your own art publications, which I think you're totally capable of doing. But what I want to do first is go through the 4 pages that you sent me and tell you what I think is interesting. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell you everything that's just not working. And I can tell what you're getting and what you're not. So let's look at this front page. It's actually pretty interesting because it breaks the typical layout look of a publication. The thing is, you, my theory is you shouldn't break the rules of design until you've learned them. I mean, even Picasso, who was one of the great experimenters of all time, you look at his early work, they were very traditional academic paintings, drawings, realistic, representational. And it was only after he had totally mastered all of that that he basically set the world on fire with his own unique vision. So I'm going to hold you to the original standards of type design at this point. And then later on, when you come really good at this, you can go ahead and just blow it out. So, page one, I like what you've got going on up here. The art of education. The typeface I can tell is copperplate, which is okay. At least it's a bold and strong font, and it does work as a kind of a title type. I really don't want to see information about me on the front page of your bio newsletter. It just doesn't belong there. You're the star. So anything that you have in here that isn't from Moby Dick, it should be about you. And it looks like you have some nice writing about yourself in here, whether it's an artist statement or whatever it is. So I'm going to go down here at the bottom, go to page two, and I mean, there's a lot of things that are awkward about this. But I do love you're the only person I've seen yet that ran a photograph across the gutter or the fold in the pages. This is great. This has a good instinct here. Um, and it looks nice and clear. The problem with this image is it doesn't look like the original that you used was of a high enough resolution. That's why if we come in on it, it looks pretty choppy, and that's pretty ugly. I don't know if this is your painting or not, but it's a great image. Um, and I'm going to talk about the fact that you need to get high resolution images. This one seems to be better. This one is all fuzzy. You do not want that. And this looks a little weird, but I think it could actually work. And we're going to talk about how you could even make these photos bigger. And then let's go to page four. Okay, so here, And again, I've seen a lot of experimental design publications that were actually laid out in a similar way, but we're not doing that right now. We're doing very conventional stuff. We want to get the rules under our belt and then play. So this is all text from Moby Dick. This is kind of interesting. I mean, I have to admit, it's kind of interesting, even though um, you're not doing it the traditional way. And I'm just trying to see what you did here. These columns, these do look like linked columns. That's fine. When you have columns of text that are that narrow, it really makes it a little hard to read. And also, when you have columns of text that are what we call justified, in other words, let's go to, okay. When you have text, let's hit the text tool, and we can look at the paragraph settings. When we have text that's justified, all right, in other words, it lines up on the left side and the right side. In order to do that, the program has to put in these big white gaps, and that's really ugly looking. It's not, notice how it's not as bad when you have a wider column of text here in the middle, but when you have smaller columns, narrower columns, you're more susceptible to these really ugly gaps here. So I would avoid that. But let's go back to page 1. And let's turn on the guides. So I'm going to hit the W key. Oh, I was in the text tool, so I'm going to hit W and go back to page 1. Now you have a layout here. You have a layout that is 3 columns. Let's turn this off. You have 3 columns you set it up for, but you didn't line up any of your objects, your image frames, or text frames with that layout. You didn't take advantage of it. So what I would do, and for now I'm going to keep this text about this really boring person in here. You also have text that runs right up against the image, and we don't normally want that. So let's see what you got here. You got a okay, so you got 2 image frames on top of each other. So let's zoom in a little bit. I'm going to show you how to fix a few things. So here you've got it lined up down here. I'm going to click on this right one here and choose fit frame to content. Oops, nope, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to bring this down here and bring this up here, and then I'm going to increase the size of this one. And I'm not going to edit this at all. I'm just going to there. So I lined them up. They're so lined up better. And now I'm going to click both, shift click, and group them. I want to group them both. Object group. So now they'll stick together. See, they're one thing. So that helps. You don't have any text wrap around it. So and then let's see, I'm trying to, and you have this image back here. Okay, You know, this image here. I'm going to pull everything out for now. I mean, this is kind of an interesting background image. But let's look at what you did here with just with your text. Okay, you got 3 columns here to use, but you didn't use it. You just kind of slapped your text frames down. So let's try this. I'm going to actually line up the text frames with your margin guides, and then in fact, let's just take that out. All right, and then for now, I'm going to make that all black. Just so we can see stuff. But here, notice I'm lining it all up with my guides. Just take my advice and do that. Take advantage. And this is okay. And here, for instance, you didn't make any paragraph styles, which I had asked for. You didn't put anything on the parent pages. You don't have anything up here like a page numbering system or anything like that. So you really you're not taking advantage of this. Let's put this in here. So this is okay because it's text that is flush left, which is lined up on the left, and ragged right, we call it. So if you highlight some of it, it's this one up here, the first one, align left, they call it. What would have been nice is if you had a drop cap. Okay, and let's see, you've got Helvetica regular, that's nice. So let's call this your I think that's better. You don't need that big a space. Again, in most paragraphs, if you have a space before the paragraph, you don't need an indent. Let's set this text so it fits the bottom. So object, text frame options, align the text to the bottom of the text frame, and there it goes. See, notice how it smacked down there, nice and neat. Notice how it's lining up at the bottom, and on here, it's this text frame is inside the 1/3 columns. This is okay. I actually like this because this is text that is you could actually have it, this is flush right, that's pretty much the same. And you know, I could maybe argue with you that maybe you even want to make this bigger. It's and then we would have to make this text frame a little bigger. And maybe you even want to make this text a little closer. So how big is this? Let's see. This is 41 point. So let's do 41 point and reduce the space in between, so it doesn't look like it's floating away. This is not bad. And then I kind of like this. This is 41/30. Maybe we'll make it a little bigger. Notice maybe you make it big enough so that the right side of the B hits the left side of the T, so you've got some kind of a relationship between them. And maybe this comes up. Let's see. so that if we put a guideline down under the E, it would hit the top of the T. See? So we're creating all these relationships. Now, let's talk about paragraph styles. So here's a paragraph style, and we're going to click in here, and we're going to call this new paragraph style. We'll call it basic body paragraph. In other words, in the middle of a story, it's a basic body paragraph. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so to set it, you just hit that. Now, if it was the first paragraph in your story, you might want to make some changes. You might want to click in there, and let's add a drop cap of 3 lines, and maybe we want to make that, let's see, this was copper plate, Gothic. Okay, so let's make this copper plate, Gothic, bold. So this is now a paragraph that is based on the basic body paragraph, but it's a little different because it has a drop cap in it. So let's make a new paragraph style just for this paragraph. So with this selected, we're going to say new paragraph style, initial paragraph with drop cap. So now you've got, and let's make it this. Okay, so this is, let's make this basic body paragraph. It looks pretty much the same. If we wanted to change this one to an initial paragraph with drop cap, now that we have the style there, we can just click in there and click boom, and look at that. Now let's, but it's not a drop cap. So let's click in here and open up. Let's edit the style. So we're gonna open it up, and we're gonna go to the drop cap, and let's set a character style for it, which is let's do a new nested style. No, we don't need that. I'll call this drop cap. And let's call it copper plate. Yes. Okay. So I think that will do it. So now our paragraph style will always make the initial drop cap copper plate. All right, so let's move this back into place. I kind of like that. It is lined up. Now there, we could make it bigger. That's not bad. And here's the thing. Let's do layers. Let's make a new layer. And put this image on the bottom layer. Lock everything else. And then move this back into place. In fact, let's make it fill the whole page. Now, what happens here is this text becomes really hard to read. So what we can do is make this object effects transparency. Let's see if this will work. New, let's see. Let's try this. Object, effects, transparency. Let's try it again. Let's try this again. All right, so here, let's do object, effects. If this doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. There we go. We're doing, we're making it transparent. So you could still have this. And this way you can still read the text. You don't have to have something underneath it, but you can maybe add some, like a subhead or something. Maybe you could do let's do this. I'm going to take a little bit of text, and I have to unlock that layer first. As a young man, okay, so here's a quote, and I'm copying it, and I'm going to create another text frame here and paste it in. And then I'm going to make it, I'm going to center the text, and using my object and text frame options, I'm going to center the text, and then I'm going to add some inset spacing, and I'm going to make this text bigger. Because that's a very powerful quote, and I'm also going to and maybe I'll fill the background of this text frame with a color that I pick up from. All right, so now let's take a look at this. Notice that how this looks compared. Save as. It's not really project 4. It's really our first big project. No, actually it's our second one. But I'm just going to bio newsletter Jacob, and I'm going to put my initials just to tell you that I worked on this. Okay. So this compared to open recent, notice the difference. This has a similar feel, but you can read all the text. The image is even bigger, so it's more dynamic. And there's a certain inner structure to this. Now, we could change this more. Just note that A probably needs to be bigger. But we basically, it's a drop. It's a pull quote, we call it. All right, let's see. Here, if we look at this, you notice here you have a text frame and you have no columns in it. I think that even if you did 2 columns here, let's go to the text frame options, make it 2 columns. That looks nicer, doesn't it? And you can also balance the columns. Well, that doesn't make much difference here. But that's better than one long column. I think your top margins are a little bit big here, so let's go to layout, margins and columns. Let's pull this up to about 1/2 inch. Okay, and then let's line this stuff up. Technically, you should probably have a bigger margin at the bottom. You know, when you mat a painting, you always leave a bit more at the bottom than at the top. So let's make this layout. And the thing is with this video, if I'm going too fast, just pause it and rerun it. All right, so that's okay, but let's give it a kind of a headline banner look. Then you can bring this down. Notice how this is, and I don't think you need that extra paragraph in between. Let's see, are these all? Let's do your basic body paragraph. Nice. So all of these are now exactly how your paragraph on this first page is. Let's take a look. It's looking a little bit more organized. Now with this, I really like that you did this, but you have a couple of choices here. You can bring these and fill this, and then let's line it up, because it looks like your text frames just got slapped down there. Okay, now there are other things I could point out to you right now, but I don't want to overwhelm you. And then here, line up the image with the guides. And then maybe we can, let's see, here's the thing. If we make this 6 columns, layout, margins, and columns, make it 6, it's easier to divide. It's easier to tell. Here we go. There we go. And then we can make this one 3 columns across. Get rid of that. And I think you might want to make this, there you go, this is 3 columns wide, this text frame is 3 columns wide, and get rid of that extra paragraph return, separating the paragraph. You don't need it. And let's make sure all of these are your basic body paragraph. Okay. When you have one line hanging up like that, that's not good. So let's maybe bring this up, and we can pull this down a little bit. There we go, we got rid of it. And let's see how this looks. Notice how everything has kind of a self-contained substructure to it. And let's see, we can, this picture may not be quite big enough, so we can make it bigger inside the frame. Nice. Boy, that's a pretty picture. I don't know if that's Monument Valley, or I'm pretty sure it's not Moab, but boy, is that beautiful. And you could even bring this down a little bit, but right now that looks good. I'm going to keep going here. All right, so if I turn on the visual aspect of the guides, I'm going to make this page also let's see, okay, and let's make the layout. I didn't do it for the document, so I really have to do it for the whole, for each page. But if you do it for the document, you don't have to keep doing it for each. Okay, I mean, you could even keep that, but you probably need another headline under here. All right, so if you want this picture, here I'm going to show you something. Let's make these each 2 columns wide. Boom. And this is going to be 2 columns. And let's make this one 2 columns. Actually, this one is, I got to pull that over a little bit. I hope you're following. And I'm going to make all the text frame options. Yep, align at the top. That looks good. I'm going to show you a little trick here. Bring this up here, because there's tons of text in. Let's pull this out right now. Make them all the same height. And these lines of text are not lining up across. So what we can, 13.2 line spacing. So let's create a baseline grid of 13.2. Okay, and let's look at it. View, show baseline grid. And we might have to zoom in on this. There it is. And let's tell this text to snap to the baseline grid. So I'm skipping a little bit ahead here, but basically what I did was I got all the text into three columns, and again I made use of both the that looks like a misspelling, both use of the baseline grid, and I also put text wrap around the image. And let's look at that text wrap. And that setting was wrap around the bounding box, and I put 1/8 of an inch around each side so it pushes the text away from it. So text wrap is really important. I don't think you had gotten that. I put this lovely picture right in the middle. Love it. If you took it, you should probably put a photo credit there. And then this little illustration I just put down as an ending illustration. It just seemed nice. And maybe I'll bring it up so that it is even with the bottom of the text. But that's it. That's it. Okay. I hope that helps a lot. And if you have any questions, what I'd like you to do is follow this, make as many changes as you can to your file, put in a couple of paragraph styles. Don't worry about the parent pages stuff at this point. I don't want to overwhelm you. But and definitely take out my information. You don't really. I mean, I appreciate the tribute, but this is about you, okay? And you're way more interesting than I am. Okay? Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.